What is up, guys? Michael from Karate Breakdown, trying to bring back practical karate. So this should be a quick video. These are my top 10 lies in karate and martial arts. Number one, you don't need strength training. Strength doesn't matter, just train technique. I hear this all the time, and adding to that, size doesn't matter. And number three, working out makes you slower. I hear those things all the time, and I just want to tell you that is such a great marketing scheme, such a great lie that has been spoken in martial arts for so many years. I see it in movies, I see it in anime and cartoons. You know, the skinny ninja looking dude beats up the big guy. What I think about is Bruce Lee. He was around 160, sometimes 135 pounds. I've seen 5'7". That's like the size of a middle school, high school kid here in America. In my opinion, if you had a high school kid that trained jiu-jitsu for maybe 6 months at that size, he would probably take care of Bruce Lee. No disrespect for him as a martial artist and as a pioneer for Asians in cinema in Hollywood, but you know, you got to get with the times too. Grappling and MMA is such a big facet in any type of martial arts training that even us traditional guys, you need to have some type of training in that. Number four, Kata will teach you how to defend yourself. That's funny. This is a Kata based channel, meaning I take Kata movements and I show practical applications of them. But I know, and I have done years and years of live sparring, pressure testing, that just doing shadow boxing or kata by yourself in a dojo at home is not going to teach you the timing, the resistance training. It's not going to teach you bodily awareness of your opponents. But number five, you don't need kata. I'd say you do need kata because that's how you build coordination. I always think of it as a big cycle, right? So you learn coordination drills like a boxer. You learn how to shadow box. You learn your jabs, your crosses, your uppercuts. You learn your footwork. You start doing that on a bag, and then you start trying to spar with it and do some partner drills with it. And then what happens is when you find out during sparring that you have a deficit in something, like when you're going for like a 1-2, like a jab cross, and then you realize when you're sparring, your cross didn't hit its target. And what you do is you go back to the drawing board and go train by yourself, aka do kata, so that you fine-tune those pathways and make them smoother, and then you try it again in sparring, or you try it against another partner in some partner drills, and you try to make those smooth again, right? And then guess what happens? You go back to your solo training, and then you go back to sparring. It's a cycle that's never ending. You can't have one without the other. That leads into number six. You just need to spar. I would say hard sparring, yes, you're going to learn how to be really tough. You're going to learn how to take a punch to the face. You're going to learn how to take hits and feel aggression that most black belts have never felt before. Even if you just did like some backyard brawling with your buddies and have zero formal training, you might be able to mess up a black belt who has only done katas for the last 4 or 5 years. That's the truth of it. But you aren't going to have the fine-tuned technique. You aren't going to get proficient quickly, and you aren't going to know what mistakes you're making unless you have the proper training, unless you have some instructor in front of you, unless you have some real feedback with another trained person. Just like the kata argument, you do need sparring. You don't need to spar only, but you also don't need to just do solo drills and shadow box as well. Number seven, you can learn everything you need by yourself. So this kind of adds on to everything, right? So during one of the live streams I had recently, somebody asked this question, and I told them you could get really far by yourself. I spent a lot of years in my youth training by myself, looking at books, watching videos, and then just repping it out by myself late into the night. You could get really good basic punches, basic kicks. You could get really good conditioning. You get in really good shape. You could do stuff on a grappling dummy. You could do stuff with like a stability ball. You could do floor drills across the floor, and those will get you very far by yourself. I would even say those might save you in a confrontation. The ability to be coordinated, the ability to have some cardio so that you might be able to get up from the ground and run away, that in itself is super important, and you could do that by yourself. What you can't get is timing and distance and the feel of another person. You can visualize, but again, you cannot get the randomness of another individual and another brain trying to crack the puzzle of your style, right? Of your combat. And then one caveat here is if you have prior training and you are pretty proficient, you can maintain and keep a lot of your skills with good visualization. You cannot increase your skill against another partner without having another partner there. Number 8, you don't need ground combatives because you'll never allow yourself to get taken down. I heard this a lot growing up in the karate world. Why should I learn how to break fall? Why should I learn how to fight on the ground? They're never going to be able to take me down. I kind of have a sense that that's changing nowadays, especially with the popularity of the UFC, popularity of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. Just more videos out there of street fights of people drunkenly tripping over, people who are sober tripping over things, people who are getting taken down, people who are getting attacked with multiple people against one, right? I would love to live in this fantasy world where I can say, yeah, no way, no one's going to take me down. But what if I trip over my own shoes, right? What if I'm walking backwards and I trip over a curb? There are so many variables that you cannot predict in a fight. And to say like you're gonna ignore one entire skill set just because you think it's not gonna happen to you, I would hate for you to find out that you needed that skill set in a real life situation. I hope that those people who fight against the idea of having to train different ranges, I hope you guys get over that and face your fear and try it out, because you never know, you might love it too. Number 9, just poke them in the eye or bite them. I'm not against the dirty tactics in self-defense. Violence beats violence, right? More violence beats violence. Sometimes you have to do the dirty stuff for your own survival, but the biggest thing for me is people who rely on saying, I don't need to learn how to ground fight, I'll just poke him in the eye and get out of there. I always tell people the dirty stuff is the setup to proper ground techniques. In jiu-jitsu, if you think about like an arm bar, and I've said this before, if you think about an arm bar, it's like properly taught, there's like 10 steps to it, right? So you got to control the arm, you got to control the posture, you got to knock them over, you got to prevent them from pulling their elbow back, you got to put the leg over the top of the head, you got to squeeze your knees together. All these things have to work perfectly to get that arm. But when you add strikes into it, it supersedes all those steps, and you could cut down the steps from maybe 10 steps down to like 3 steps, you know. Hammer fist them in the face, and then their arm is going to be exposed. That's a lot quicker way to get the armbar than trying to go through this agreed upon grappling match. With that said, I say the same thing with the dirty stuff. If I don't know any ground stuff, if I poke somebody in the eye, I'm not going to get any results beyond just aggravating them or making them even madder or escalating the situation further beyond what I thought it was going to be. There's people out there who are just fine controlling somebody on the ground, but then once that person starts biting, then that escalates it to possibly a more life-threatening situation. You got to keep that in mind. You have to be in control of the situation, have a mastery over all the skill sets, because then you are able to control the outcome. Number 10, style A is better than style B. My definitive answer is it depends. It's always up to the instructor of that school in your area. The style doesn't matter as much as the sensei, the culture of the dojo, and the quality of the instruction. I always tell people just find a few schools nearby you. Probably the most defining factor of what keeps you training once you find a good school is like their schedule, their class schedule, and the culture. If there's a culture of accountability where people are kind of checking up on each other, most likely you're going to stay. If the class schedule doesn't fit your life schedule, most likely you won't continue. And then if it's far away, even a drive when you're tired and at the end of day, you have your family you got to take care of, you have work the next day, even a 20-minute drive can feel like a lot. And that can be the enough of an excuse for that night. So nearness, dojo culture, sensei's instructions, probably the biggest 3. And then style would be after that. Once you get some more experience under your belt and you kind of find the place you like, you kind of look for, deficits in the school and see where you could fill in those gaps. And that's kind of the path I went on. My karate instructor was super open to us training everywhere and just bring it back to the dojo. So I was fortunate in that. What do you guys think of this list? Did I miss anything? Leave a comment down below in what you guys think is the biggest lie in karate and martial arts. As usual, train hard, fight easy. Till next time, catch you later.